On August 13th, DeepSeek shipped two products at once. The first is DeepSeek Harness, an open-source coding agent under an MIT license that goes straight after Claude Code, and Bloomberg described it in plain terms as a challenge to Anthropic. The second is DeepSeek V4 Pro, hitting general availability, with a 1 million token context window for under $0.50 per million tokens on input. And the market noticed immediately. The Hacker News post for the model cleared 990 points in a single day, and the Harness repo is already sitting at over 21,000 GitHub stars. Now, a tool plus a model shipped on the same day, that's exactly the formula that made Claude Code what it is. So we did the obvious thing. We installed DeepSeek Harness with one npx command. We read the docs, and we went through every number DeepSeek published. If you're new here, this is A Dive, where we stay on top of AI so you can stay on your work. And in this video, we're going over DeepSeek Harness's everything is a plugin architecture, what V4 Pro is worth against Claude on benchmarks and pricing, and our verdict on who should migrate and who should wait. Before we open the hood, one word needs defining: harness. If you already live in Claude Code or Codex every day, feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter. A harness is basically all the machinery wrapped around a model so it can actually work on your computer. That machinery is the loop that chains the calls, the tools the model is allowed to use, the context management, the permissions, and the interface. The model decides, the harness executes. It's a short sentence, but it's the whole division of labor. Now, when you type an instruction into Claude Code, the model never touches your disk itself. It asks the harness to read a file, run a command, or launch a test, and the harness checks whether that's allowed, executes it, and hands the result back. Every coding agent you've used works this way. So Claude Code is Anthropic's harness wired to the Claude models, and Codex is OpenAI's harness wired to GPT. DeepSeek never had an official one. Its models ran inside other people's tools. That's what August 13th changes. DeepSeek is done selling just the engine, and it's now selling the whole car. The first thing to understand about DeepSeek Harness, which the doc shortened to DSH, is its central idea: everything is a plugin. That's not a marketing slogan, it's the actual architecture. Models are plugins. Tools are plugins, skills, sessions, sandboxes, storage, loops, scheduling, and even the interface, all plugins. The official docs put it plainly: you can select, swap, or extend any capability and configuration without changing the harness source code. Under the hood, it all rests on Cordis, a kernel DeepSeek describes in a research paper on composability, and the project has real weight behind it. Over 12,000 commits, a Discord server, and a dedicated DSH plugin tag on GitHub, where community plugins are already showing up. Concretely, that means the harness has no frozen core. If you want a different sandbox, different session storage, or a different model, you change the config, not the code. An installation is one command. You run npx at DeepSeek AI/DSH web, and a web interface opens locally on port 3080. No account required to start, no installer. The npm package is enough. If you'd rather build from source, the whole repo clones and compiles with pnpm in 4 commands. Once you're in, DSH ships 4 runtime modes, and this is where the architecture bet becomes visible. Standard mode is the full coding agent: file editing, shell, search, and planning, the direct equivalent of Claude Code. Code mode has the model generate TypeScript that orchestrates multi-step operations itself instead of chaining tool calls one by one, which cuts round trips, latency, and tokens on long tasks. Minimal mode strips the agent down to bash and a file editor, mostly for benchmarking the raw model. And creator mode is for building your own presets with runtime inspection and live plugin experiments. One last piece: traceability. Everything the model sees goes into an append-only session log, which basically means you can only add to the end, never rewrite history. That log is the harness's source of truth, and you can resume, fork, search, or replay any session from it. So when your agent goes off the rails on tool call 42, you don't dig through a transcript. You replay the session to the tipping point and see exactly what the model saw. That's operating system thinking, not another API wrapper. But the harness is only half the launch. The other half is DeepSeek V4 Pro, build 0813, the model leaving preview and hitting general availability. You can already run it through the DeepSeek API or Open Router. It's a mixture of experts, which basically means only a fraction of the network activates per token, so you get big model capability at small model compute cost. The spec sheet: a 1 million token context window, up to 384,000 output tokens, tool calls, and JSON output. And one detail counts double in this story. The DeepSeek API advertises Anthropic API compatibility. In plain terms, a tool written to talk to Claude can talk to V4 Pro by swapping a base URL and a key. You can guess who that's aimed at. On the numbers, DeepSeek claims scores near the top. around 80.6% on SWE-bench Verified for the max variant, against 80.8% for Claude Opus 4.6, plus claimed wins on Terminal Bench 2.1 against Opus 4.8. On the Artificial Analysis Index, it sits at 53, while Opus 5 holds 63. Speed is its clearest win, 83 tokens per second against 52. But here's the detail that changes how you read every one of those numbers. Not a single score has been reproduced by a third party yet. Everything in circulation traces back to DeepSeek or to articles copying DeepSeek. Simon Willison points out the benchmarks first circulated in DeepSeek's official WeChat group, got copied into a Reddit post that moderators deleted, and ended up as an ASCII table on Hacker News. He also notes there is no official announcement page, and open weights aren't confirmed, even though April's V4 Pro and July's V4 Flash both ended up on Hugging Face, so a release looks likely. His Pelican test at least showed something unusual. 3 reasoning levels, 3 radically different pelicans. So the model is probably very good. Right now, though, DeepSeek is the only one saying so. The third piece of the file is price, and it's where DeepSeek hits hardest. Today, V4 Pro costs 43.5 cents per million input tokens and 87 cents per million on output through the DeepSeek API. Claude Opus 5 sits at $5 in and 25 out, and Fable 5 at 10 and 50. So do the math. At today's rate, V4 Pro runs about 11 times cheaper than Opus 5 on input and 28 times cheaper on output. Even Sonnet 5, Anthropic's budget option at 2 and 10, stays 4 to 11 times more expensive. To make that concrete, take a typical coding agent session. 50,000 tokens in, 15,000 out. On Opus 5, that session costs about 62 cents. On V4 Pro, at today's rate, 3.5 cents. And for an agent, the hidden line item is cache, because a harness resends the same context every loop turn. A cache hit costs 50 cents per million on Opus 5 and 1/3 of a cent on DeepSeek. Except this floor price has an expiration date, and it's close. Starting August 16th, 3 days after launch, the API moves to peak and off-peak billing. Off-peak, V4 Pro climbs to 66 cents in and 1.98 out. Peak, between 1 and 4 a.m., then 6 and 10 a.m. UTC, it's 1.32 and 3.96. In other words, the price everyone is comparing this week rises by at least half and peaks at over quadruple on output. Even at the worst rate, V4 Pro stays almost 4 times cheaper than Opus 5, so the argument survives, but the number going around Hacker News is a promo ending in 3 days, and the schedule matters for agents. Peak hours track the Chinese workday, so overnight crons can hit off peak while afternoon coding eats peak windows. Which leaves the real question: can the package, Harness plus model, replace Claude Code on your machine? On architecture, DSH has arguments Claude Code doesn't. When your agent derails, Claude Code lets you dig through the transcript. DSH lets you replay the session event by event. And the plugin system reaches further than Anthropic's skills and MCP servers, because it also covers the sandbox, the storage, and the loop itself. In Claude Code, you extend the agent. In DSH, you can recompose it. The harness also takes models other than DeepSeek's, where Claude Code stays locked to Claude unless you route through unofficial proxies. On the other side, Claude Code has maturity, and it weighs a lot. Months of production across tens of thousands of teams, a huge ecosystem of skills, hooks, and integrations, models whose scores independent evaluators verify, and subscription access that shields you from billing surprises, where DSH bills every token. DSH is a developer preview at version 0.1, and the README says it in capital letters. There will be compatibility breaking changes. But the Anthropic compatibility makes this interesting because you don't actually have to pick a side. Keep your harness and point workflows at V4 Pro or try DSH with the model you already use. So DSH is the most credible challenger Claude Code has faced, and it's a 0.1 challenger against a sitting champion. Before you uninstall anything, the limits, and there are 3. First, DSH is a developer preview that breaks compatibility without notice. So the plugin you write this week may not load next month. Building your daily workflow on it today means agreeing to repair it regularly. Second, every V4 Pro benchmark is self-reported. No independent reproduction, no announcement page, numbers that surfaced in a WeChat group. They may well be accurate, but you don't know that yet, and neither does anyone else. Third, the price making the buzz is on borrowed time. From August 16th, time slot billing pushes output up to $3.96 per million at peak, 4.5 times launch day pricing. DSH gives you total freedom over your agent's architecture and almost no guarantee about what will still be true in a month. If your agent stack runs your business, this is not the week to move it. So here's our read after a day inside it. If you build harnesses or agent tooling, install DSH this week. The all plugin architecture and the replayable log are the two most interesting ideas around right now, and one npx command gets you an opinion. If you just want a smaller API bill on agent tasks, test V4 Pro on a side project, but run the math on the August 16th rates, and wait for independent confirmation of the scores before you reroute production. And if Claude Code runs your daily work, keep it. Nothing in this launch justifies migrating a tool that works to a version 0.1 that promises breakage. The good news is this attack forces everyone to move, and whatever agent you're on, its price now has a real chance of dropping. That's the dive. If this earned a minute of your day, the super thanks button below keeps them coming. Subscribe and hit the bell so the next one reaches you. See you in the next one.